anytime you're making a big decision, you're stepping into something new, or maybe you're stepping into something familiar, but it's always been something that has caused you to question yourself. Honestly, sometimes does it feel like you're running a board of directors meeting in your mind? Sometimes when you are approaching project, something going on with the family, or anything else in your life. It's so funny because I have said this to my husband. I'll be talking out loud. I do that. I process verbally, and he'll come in and he'll go, "Are you talking to me?" And I'm like, "No, I'm having a meeting with my board of directors." It's just the way I process information. But an invisible board of directors is not about processing information, even though I joke about that. Having an internal board of directors means that you're questioning yourself. There are different parts of you that are looking at your dreams, your goals, the actions that you're taking, how you're showing up, who you're being, and they're running it through multiple filters of possible outcomes. In other words, you're living in the future, you're not in the present. And when we're not in the present, we miss things. But where does this board of directors even come from? What creates this? Because you and I both know you're not crazy. Sometimes it might feel like we're crazy. You're not crazy. I'm not crazy. We just have these moments where we're sorting things out. Yes, it still happens to me, but when I catch it, I'm able to squash it, make a decision, and move forward because some things are pure habit. But if this is still happening for you all the time, where you're questioning your decisions and you're not sure that you're doing the right thing and you need all the facts and you need everything lined up, and I'm not talking about risk assessment in business, so don't think I'm going cuckoo off that. I understand that. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about things where you don't need a risk assessment, but your mind is going into overdrive. That is your family still showing up in your life. What do I mean by that? When we are young, we are impressed upon by our family dynamics. Were there more than one child? Did you have siblings? Are you the oldest, the youngest, the middle? Were your parents busy? Did they work two jobs? Were they going to school? Did they get along with their friends? How are you making friends in school? Did your family members talk about people? Was there a lot of gossip? Was there criticism? Sometimes I'll have clients that their parents had extreme fear-based thinking, but they had the fear-based thinking from a positive intention. They wanted the best for their kids, but every time one of the kids was wanting to go do something, it's like, well, you better be careful. You better look out for this. It was always watch your back, look out. The world's not safe. Who are you to do this? Oh, that's okay. You don't need to join the talent show. You're not the best singer, or whatever the case may be. Innocent little comments, and maybe some that aren't so innocent. Maybe we had family members that teased us. They picked on us. Maybe we were bullied in school. Maybe the teachers didn't see it. I could come up with a list of things a mile long that can set the subconscious mind up to create a filter of comparison. Now, we're always comparing things, right? We're always going to compare different aspects of life. But when your mode of operating becomes a comparison filter and constant risk assessment in the board meeting, when you need that external validation, when you don't trust yourself to make the decision, that goes back to your family and things that you learned very young. That you might say, I didn't really have a family like that. Everything was great. And things were so good for me. I even dropped out of college to start my first business, and I made my first million by the time I was 22. This is a real scenario I help someone with. When they got to me, they were starting their third business. And they're like, yeah, no, everything was great. Everything was always great. It was beautiful. I got handed this contract the other day and I need to sign this contract. And then all of a sudden, when that contract was in front of me, I am finding myself in analysis paralysis. They were overthinking everything. When we dove in and we did the work, because I asked them, is there anything you can think of that contributed to this? Well, this is tied to a past business partner. And after the fact, I found out they really screwed me over. So, okay, that tells you, okay, so for some reason there's a lack of trust, but this person, in that situation, a lack of trusting themselves, but that really doesn't fit. We look at the whole history, that doesn't fit. I never make assumptions about my clients, because the moment I make an assumption around what is causing the problem, you can bet that it's going to steer everything in the wrong direction. So, breadcrumbs, highly individualized. We follow the breadcrumbs. People ask me, what does it look like to do a session with you? And the most important part of the session is before the session starts. We're going to break down the history of everything, and then we're going to look at where you want to go. And I am going to find the most potent thread, the one that seems to trigger something around what's happening. And we're going to follow that back. And then we're going to start knocking down dominoes. So at the end of the day, what happened was an experience in childhood where this individual felt trapped. And it was something that most kids have gone through in their life. It was a very innocent thing. But in the moment where the contract was laid down and this person had to make a decision and they didn't know which decision to make, they had this uncomfortable feeling, and the brain goes, where have we felt this before? We need some help to figure this out. And then the brain connected these two things together. That thing that happened when this person was a kid didn't run their life. But when their brain was attempting to solve the problem, it was like, let me go back to other times I've felt this way, look for examples so I can use that information to solve this problem. It was in that moment that I realized, once we found that moment of being trapped, I looked at my notes and the client had said those exact words to me when they were telling me about the problem, when they were talking about analysis paralysis. They said, it's crazy. I feel like I'm trapped. And I don't understand. I make 1,000 decisions in other people's businesses every single day. I cannot afford for this to be in my life. So we worked through it. And when the mind saw how ridiculous it was, it easily let go of that belief. Everything shifted for them. They went on to grow that business, that third business, to multiple 8 figures, and they're unstoppable. So sometimes people will say, it's not you making decisions, it's your 7-year-old, it's your 6-year-old, it's your 8-year-old making decisions. Yes and no, because sometimes that 7 or 8-year-old, they didn't run your life, but you'll have an event. And when the mind is looking to put context and meaning on the event, it will take something that totally does not belong and it will smack those things together. That's why a lot of times someone can have a great childhood. There's was nothing but money was always good. They got everything they always needed and wanted. And so people think, oh my God, I don't need inner child work. Well, that's not inner child work. That's releasing a paradox that the mind has got itself caught up in. So when I say I don't make assumptions, I don't make assumptions around that work. I can't possibly know what your mind has connected together in an illogical, irrational way. But I am an expert in helping you uncover it. That's why I'm backed by 2 of the most well-known transformation and abundance coaches out there in the industry. And I steadily get referrals and recommendations from them to help people work through these blocks and these challenges. Where my real focus is people like you, because you're here to create so much more impact. You're here to shift so many lives in your own unique way, in the way that only you can do. And I'm here to set you free of whatever it is that's creating this invisible barrier that's keeping you from moving forward as quickly as you would like to be. It's time to take your life from great to exceptional. Let's do it. But before you say, yes, let's do it, I want you to do this. I want you to be able to learn to understand the difference between old triggered emotions or old triggers that show up in our body. Sometimes people say, I don't feel emotions, but they feel sensations in their body. I want you to learn the difference between something that is an old pattern that's coming up and something that's new, something that's completely valid, because a lot of times people get into this cycle of thinking that they shouldn't feel badly. And I'm doing air fingers quote, they shouldn't feel badly. And that's to deny our humanity, to believe that we shouldn't feel badly. But when you understand what those feelings are, what they're telling you, and you start to develop enough awareness that you can discern, okay, is this something that my mind is just like, it's off down a rabbit hole on something? Or do I have a legitimate reason to feel this way right now? When you can discern that and you know how to address the two separate scenarios, that is a game changer. And that's what Tina and I teach in Resonance. We go through the emotions, and then she leads a self hypnosis that you can use to anchor your body into a sense of calm and safety and security. So, with that being said, the link is in the description. Hit subscribe, like this video, and leave a comment of what you would like to see more of on this channel.